क्षेत्र में काम करने वाले, नेतृत्व करने वाले सभी लोगों के लिए पथदर्शक बनेगी, रास्ता बताती रहेगी।
Everybody can do business, but Tata is the best example for doing ethical business, doing business in a right way. Ratan Tata ji is a great loss, but we have to carry his legacy. That legacy will be permanent.
Industrialist Mukesh Ambani, accompanied by his family, his wife Neeta, son Akash and daughter-in-law Shloka also paid his respects at the NCPA. Ambani was greeted by Noel Tata, Ratan Tata's half-brother, and had a brief conversation with Tata's son's chairman, N. Chandrasekharan.
Ratanji, I think to my mind, not only gave leadership to the House of Tatas, but more importantly, also inspired next few generations.
उनकी कंपनियों ने हर तरह सपोर्ट की, ना केवल बड़ी बड़ी कंपनियां बना करके, लेकिन एजुकेशन में सपोर्ट किया, हेल्थ केयर में सपोर्ट किया, कम्युनिटीज़ को सपोर्ट किया, आर्ट्स को सपोर्ट किया. सो बहुत यूनिक, कंप्लीट, जैसे कहा जाता ना, कंप्लीट बिजनेस लीडर थे वो.
No, I always saw my father and him, together, and so. And obviously, I think we're very similar as families as well with our value systems. So obviously that brings us closer as well. My condolences to his entire family and everyone who's worked closely with him, I think, and my prayers. And I hope that whatever's best happens.
I think a great example for all youngsters who grow up in this country, that you can achieve greatness beyond human imagination. You can lead the world. You can be a great industrialist. You can be a great moneyed man. But you can still have that heart. You can still have that simplicity, and you can still live a life which is so simple that you cannot imagine.
Actor Amir Khan and filmmaker Kiran Rao also paid their respects.
रतन जी ने जो कंट्रीब्यूशन दिया है, उनकी कंपनी टाटा, उनसे पहले से और उनके लीडरशिप में जो कंट्रीब्यूशन दिया है देश के लिए, वो अमूल्य है. इट्स प्राइसलेस एंड बहुत ही रेयर किस्म के इंसान, और हम सब उनको बेहद मिस करेंगे.
Ratan Tata was known for his love for dogs and animals. In a fitting tribute, Goa, his pet, also met him one last time. Ratan Tata's mortal remains were then transported from the NCPA to Worli for his final rites. Close to 200 people present, including Ratan Tata's brother, Jimmy Tata. Parsi prayers were recited for about 45 minutes. The famously media-shied mogul was cremated with full state honors. Bureau Report, India Today.
For many decades, the story of India Inc. was the story of the Tata Birla families. And at a time when the entire nation mourns the passing of the legendary Ratan Tata, to reminisce about the life and times of this larger-than-life industrialist, we're joined live and exclusive on the India Today network at this time by Kumaramangalam Birla, chairperson of the Aditya Birla Group. Thank you very much, Mr. Birla, for taking out time on a day when all of India seems to be in mourning. There's such an outpouring of grief and emotion, not just from politicians, from industrialists, but even from the Aam Aadmi. You knew Mr. Tata at very close quarters. Can you give us a sense of what is it that you think made him so special? The country seems to be in mourning. It's almost as if everyone had some connect with Mr. Tata. What is it that you think made him strike such a direct chord with so many people?
So Rahul, let me start by saying that our families have been friends for more than a couple of generations. So it does feel like a personal loss for sure. My father and he in particular were very close friends. Um, he called me the day after my father passed and said, you know, you have a friend at the end of a telephone line in me and you can call me anytime. I can't forget that he stood behind me all through my father's funeral, that too wearing a suit. He was pretty drenched by the end of it all. I think his biggest legacy goes beyond this industry. His footprint, as we know, extends beyond this industry. He impacted India in a very real way. I think his legacy as a humanitarian and as a philanthropist will actually be larger than his legacy as an industrialist, which in itself has been very large and very profound. I knew him from very close quarters. I saw him as, in the role of a partner. I saw him as a member of his board. I was on the board of Tata Steel and have a lot of very interesting memories, rich memories. I remember I was on the board of Tata Steel when the Tatas were going through a transition. You still had, veterans from the group being wheeled into the boardroom in wheelchairs. And I could see his extreme discomfort. He also had spoken to me about it, but he was always very courteous, very polite. And that was a man, very simple, led a very frugal life. From what I know, he lived in a very simple home, uh, hardly had two or three domestic staff at home, despite the fact that he was aging and needed help. The only luxury he allowed himself were, I think, he spent on clothes and shirts and suits. Nothing really beyond that. So he was truly a humanitarian. I think he run the Tata Group truly like a trustee of shareholders and of the people. His involvement with some of the Tata charities was quite deep. Um, of course, he was very low profile, shunned publicity, stayed away from the limelight. I guess you guys know that better than anyone else. So, a giant of a man, he leaves a legacy and a life that I think we should all celebrate.
So, the relationship of competition and cooperation between the Tata and Birla groups goes back decades. In fact, in 1944, JRD Tata and GD Birla ji together played an important role in the formation of the Bombay Plan. Can you give our viewers at this time a sense of the history of cooperation and at times competition between the Birla and the Tata groups, and how you were able to maintain these personal equations despite the fact that in industries like cement, steel, your companies were at loggerheads and in competition?
There never was any sense of competition, to be honest, Rahul. Never felt that. I think one would say that the two groups have been like siblings almost, with their fortunes inextricably linked with each other. The only common industry, frankly, was telecom, where we were partners for a while. Um, I don't think there was any sense of competition. My great grandfather, G.D. Birla, and JRD were very close. There was a point in time when we as a family held more shares in the Tata companies um, than the Tatas themselves. And I remember my great grandfather used to send the proxies to JRD before the AGMs of his companies. Both of them were architects of India and Indian industry post independence. Very alike in the way that they conducted themselves and their vision for the country. So I think that we have bonds between our families that go back a long time. And I see a great resemblance in the culture and values shared between the two families and the two groups.
So one is trying to build the India story, the other is trying to take the India story internationally. In the international acquisitions that Mr. Tata made of Land Rover, Jaguar, etc. Do you want to tell us what you learned by observing Mr. Tata serving on the boards, by observing him in action? What were the reflections that you tried to pick up by seeing this legend in action?
I think he was very bold in the decision that he took. especially with JLR and with steel. He had a style where he let these, foreign acquisitions kind of remain at a distance and not really integrate them along with the mother companies. That was a style that was quite typical of his. I really don't know why he chose to do that. Maybe he just thought that was the more practical thing to do. Once he decided that he wanted to acquire something, whether in India or overseas, he would go after it and almost acquire it at any cost. But he was passionate. He was passionate about Tata Motors for sure. I think Chorus gave him a lot of trouble, but he was quite passionate about it when he made the acquisition. And as you know, he paid a very handsome premium for it. So I think he believed that Indian industry had it in him to go global. And that was reflected in his decisions to make overseas acquisitions.
What do you think a young entrepreneur, someone with a startup, somebody hoping to build some company, should learn from the manner in which Mr. Tata conducted himself at a time when we see so much display of wealth or ostentation? What do you think are the biggest lessons young people can learn from the life and times of Mr. Tata?
I think that, he always had a larger purpose. In his case, it was the purpose was to build India.